Ibola, kgwele ya maoto, idiski, soccer, football. E dutse e le modudi wa Afrika Borwa lebaka la mengwaga e lekgolo. However fractured and imperfect it might be, this is the journey that has kept us all together.
iDiskiTV, hello and welcome to a very special episode. If you've been paying attention to your television, you would have seen something very special happening on TV, particularly on Supersport PSL channel 202. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. There's been a great series. It's called Pulse of the Nation. I've been intrigued by it and I hope you have been as well. If you've watched some of the episodes, I would like you to share a comment about it. What do you think about it? What do you feel about it? I'm with the series director, Uluthando Chaya. Thank you so much for joining us. So how are you doing?
I'm good, so thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, man. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's phenomenal. There's so many questions to ask, but I think the most important thing that I really would like to impart to you guys and your team is that's just phenomenal. It's outstanding.
Thank you.
The amount of archives that you were able to access, the storytelling in there, the drama, the effort that you guys made to go to Cape Town to speak to Gordon Egerson, to go to somewhere else to speak to someone about South African football is phenomenal. Tell me about maybe the time that you guys have spent. How long has this been shot over which period?
Pulse of the Nation, it took about 2 years in the making. I'm happy that you're also mentioning the archive because we had to make sure, Guti, first of all, our history is not documented.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? So it was one of the reasons why we are doing this because I'm a huge advocate for documenting history and that's why I'm in this business. So we had to make sure, Guti, we dig deep. So it took about 3 years of research and then 2 years in the making because we had to make sure, Guti, we are clear what we are doing. About 40 hours of archive that we have in there.
Damn.
About 62 interviews that we have in the series, and about 4,000 and something minutes of original score. Also South African.
Oh yeah, I love the music, so I picked that up. I was like, yeah, this is original music.
Yes, original music, and some of it is like people who have also football fans who are like putting their hand up and say, guys, we want to be part of this. So it's been a special project.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the story. What are you trying to tell?
The story, the history of South African football spanned over 100 years, right? And it was an impossible task for us to say, we're going to tell the whole history.
Absolutely.
Right? So we had to focus on characters who had shaped the game to what it is today.
Yeah.
And not only that, but people that we'll have access to, right? Because access is important. Will this person be available for the interview? Do they have archive? Because also that's very important. And so that was the main thing.
Let's talk about the discussion that's online. The idea that that could be construed as a Soweto story as opposed to a South African story.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a fair or unfair analysis?
Yeah, I think that's where I was going with the previous point. I don't know where I lost my train of thought. So we decided, Uguti, when we are telling our story, we're going to focus on people who have shaped the game and who have done a great job in doing so, and they are very notable people in our society. So like when we start the series, we say Soweto is not the birthplace of South African football, but it is, however, where you will find its heartbeat. And we know for a fact that most of the iconic clubs in SA, they span from Soweto.
Absolutely.
And the reason why football has its footprint in SA currently, it's because of the clubs that come from Soweto. In episode 3, actually, when we go around the country to introduce other clubs and other people who have contributed to this great history of football, we touch on Amazulu is one of the oldest clubs.
Yeah, you guys did Chatsworth for Manning Rangers. They won the first Premier Soccer
inaugural Premier Soccer League champions. So the reason why we started in Soweto, just going back, is because we tell a story of Babu James Mbanza,
yes,
who arrived in Soweto in 1931. esuka KZN, and he used to play football in KZN. He arrived in Soweto in 1931, and he established a boys' club in 1934. Ubaba Mpanza was a very strong political leader, and he was given the name Ezgama Kepula, right? Because of the land grabs that he led during that period.
Yeah.
And that is not documented, So one of the
I
land grabs...
remember the first episode that you covered that.
Yeah. So from there, it went to Morocco Swallows, and then we went to the story of Kaizer Chiefs. So that's why we had to start there, just to remind people of where these giant clubs that still exist today in the Premier Soccer League, where they come from.
Yeah, because of watching Upas of the Nation, I started to think. Actually, I wrote down the cities that have won the Premier Soccer League since its inception, and I thought to myself that, given that this looks like South African football stories always told through the lens of Soweto, is it fair or unfair? But I am a very critical thinker.
Yeah.
What I did was 1996, Durban wins it.
Yes.
97,
Yes.
Pretoria wins it. 97, 98, 99 is Pretoria who wins it.
Yeah.
After that, I think it's Orlando, Soweto.
Yes.
After that, it's Cape Town.
Yes.
After that, it's Orlando, Soweto.
Yes.
After that, it's Soweto, Pefeni.
Yeah.
Pefeni again. So throughout, my point being that throughout the last 25 years, Durban and Cape Town have won it twice collectively. The rest of the years have been won by either Pretoria or Soweto. And that's a factual thing. I was critically analyzing and be like, you know what? At the end of the day, all the league titles since 1996 belong in either Pretoria or Soweto. So whether I'm from Cape Town, I'll always advocate for Cape Town.
Yeah.
But whether we like it or not, the teams that have won it the most are teams from either Soweto or Pretoria.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that people can do to complain about that, unfortunately. Let's talk about what you personally probably picked up from the story of Kaizer Chiefs being born from Orlando Pirates. I thought that was so romantic when I watched it, because I've always known it. I'm a football geek, but I'm like, this thing, the reason why Kaizer Chiefs is what it is and Pirates is what it is that they had to give birth to one another and to hate each other, and Swallows be somewhere in the picture as well.
Yeah. It's a love and hate relationship, to be quite honest, because Kaizer, when I was doing the interview with him, so we did the interview. So after the interview, I was like, is it true what they say, Gucci, once a Pirates, always a Pirates? And his response was, once a Pirates, always a Kaizer Chiefs, And he's paying homage to the fact that I know that I come from there. My family comes from there. The history of Kaizer Chiefs comes from there.
Yeah.
And that is how we feel also as Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates supporters. When there's a game happening, it's okay. You've got to respect Orlando Pirates, because we are who we are because of them, right?
Yeah.
So that is what I picked up from there, is that the rich culture and some of the way that Kaizer Chiefs operates today, it's based on the foundation that Pirates had laid through Ubaba Mpanza.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful story. I remember someone in media, we were having this discussion, and they said that they made a very good point about how do you become an enigma, a big thing. Because Sundowns actually has always won the league, even since in the inception. They were the first team to win it 3 times in a row. 97, 98, 99. Yeah. Even the time that Ted Dumitro. So when the PSL is incepted in 96, it's won by Rangers. It's a new league. It's called the Premier Soccer League, right?
Yes.
It's a new era for us. But then in 97, 98, 99, they won it 3 times.
3 times.
And if you were to gain fans, you gain them through winning. But someone said something very interesting, and they said, they don't have a sparring partner. They don't have a villain. If they are the hero in the story, they've never had a villain. With Chiefs and Pirates, this one hates that one, that one hates that one. And that's intriguing.
Yes.
And in my family, and I'm sure in your family, it's either Chiefs or Pirates. And you always need that when you're going to become what you become. Because Sundowns is the greatest PSL team, statistically. They won the most league titles. They are going to win 7 league titles in a row now in this phase currently. They're gonna win it 7 times in a row. But in order for them perhaps to be bigger than Chiefs or bigger than Pirates, they needed a team that maybe came from them.
That will rival them. Yeah.
Absolutely, but I really really enjoyed that story. There was a very sad moment in the third episode, and it was the Ellis Park disaster. And I was 11 when that happened, and it was on a Wednesday evening, and I was watching that game in Gugulethu, where you come from, actually, interestingly, and because where I come from, there were not too many TVs.
Yes,
so
you have
you
to
would
go
have
to
to go.
Makelwa.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
So
there's one house in the street that
has a TV.
Yeah,
that was my experience when I was a kid. So I was 11, and I watched that on a Wednesday evening. I don't think we've ever seen to the full extent the damage. Through Pulse of the Nation, I think it was the first time that I saw bodies laying down, people injured, people dead. How emotional was it for you guys as a crew to chop up those archives, put them up for us to be able to consume them?
What you also need to understand, when some of the stuff we couldn't put out there in the public because of, the graphics are too severe for people to digest, So it was hard for us to tell that story, because as storytellers in documentary making, we start with a narrative structure, right? Where you highlight what you're going to touch on in the story.
Yeah.
In Ellis Park, I must say, I was afraid to touch it because of the people that were affected by it and the after effect of Ellis Park, But as my research went on, I was like, it is important for me to tell that story, because that story helped us to understand what we need to do in order for us to move forward as a country and as a footballing space. So we can't tell the story of South African football and try to be rosy and not touch on things that people still have questions on.
Yeah.
So it was important for us to give those answers so that people can understand what really happened. As you can see how we start the story, we start by dissecting what Soweto Derby is and how people come to the games, and people travel from all over the country to come to the games, and it's always packed. And we talk about the excitement that happens when people don't have tickets, they're outside the game, but they still push on. Paco narrates that story very well. He talks about the first
goal.
He
was there.
Yeah, he talks about the first goal of Tony Ilodigwe, right? And the second goal that caused people to push and come in, and security at that point also couldn't handle this thing.
I think So cried. He works for us, and I think either 2 years back it was the 20th anniversary, and I asked him about that, and I maybe phrased it incorrect by that. I said the goal that you scored caused the stampede. Of course, he had nothing to do with that. It's just that it was a trigger. People were too excited inside.
Also, Gordon Nicholson, he says, we were still playing, but we didn't know what was happening.
Oh, yes, he did say it.
Yeah. The players were still playing.
They were absorbed in the match.
They were so focused in this moment, and then there was people dying on the side of the field. So it was very tragic for South African football.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate this. Like, for me, Pulse of the Nation is so great. Like, I'm so fortunate as well to be able to catch it when it's live on SuperSport, on SuperSport PSL, because I'm a sports geek. I'm always watching. We shoot games here in my house, and then I stay here and I upload and do the rest of the stuff. And then whilst I'm uploading, I see it. Or after watching a certain game, I see it. And I've been so lucky to be able to see all 3
How would you
episodes.
rate it out of a 10?
Out of 10, I never rate anything, even in music, out of 10.
Yeah.
That's probably an 8 out of 10.
Oh, that's
Probably
fantastic.
It's archives, it's original score, it's the storytelling, it's the effort. Because I've been in South African football as a consumer of the sport for so long before I started doing this, and I see people do half-baked things.
Yeah.
Half-baked books, half-baked documentaries, half-baked opinions about what happened. That thing is comprehensive, bro.
Thank you.
The number of people that you were able to talk to and go to them and speak to them. And as a journalist, I'm asking questions. Okay, how did you get Gordon Egerson? Because I remember he had an academy the last time I was at Sokala Duma.
Yeah.
How did you get this one? How did you get that one? So for me, I'm thoroughly impressed. Maybe before I let you go, talk to us about what's more to see, how many episodes there are, without spoiling it for people like myself. Because the third episode, which was the recent episode I watched,
Yeah.
I could characterize it as looking at the professionalization of South African football.
Yes,
right?
yes.
What more can we see? I suppose at some point we should expect that Sundowns kicks the ass of everyone for 7 years in a row, and that's exactly what they've done, and you pay tribute to them.
Yeah.
And maybe the Motsepe era, if it's there.
I won't reveal too much. I won't reveal too much, but what I'm going to say is after the professionalization of football, football needed resources to sustain players, sustain the game, sustain the club through grants, right? So we go into the fact that how will PSL sustain itself? And so they needed a broadcast deal.
You did touch it on episode 3.
Yeah. So we unpack it, and we also unpack the scandal of 2004 World Cup.
The one that's Bafana, South Africa was supposed to be awarded.
Yeah, but
they didn't get because one of the FIFA members defected.
I won't mention the name. Watch the documentary so that you can hear what happens.
Okay.
So we'll give you the full scope, and then other things, which I don't want to give spoilers away.
Okay, all right, there you go. SuperSport PSL, channel 202 at 8 p.m. So there's only 4 episodes.
Yeah, there's only 4 episodes for now.
I would have loved more episodes.
They're coming.
Okay, cool. Let me indulge me, please. One more thing. Ushaka Zulu, that story allegedly had a big budget. Now, me as someone who was interested in these things, I was thinking throughout this thing, I'm like, damn, you guys must have had a big budget.
Yes,
Not as much as Ushaka, obviously.
I can't touch on budget because I am a storyteller. So the production companies would invite me to come and tell the story. But what I want to say is it has been a privilege, to stand on shoulders of giants to tell the story. Because I know for a fact, Uguti, 200 years or 300 years from now, our kids, our grandkids will have a reference of what South African football is. So I'm really happy that we were able to tell the story. And people like you who are football fanatics, they're able to look at the story and gives us a thumbs up.
Absolutely. That was great, bro. That was great. No BS. That was absolutely great. There's things like catch-up. I'm sure if you miss it on TV, you can be able to get it on catch-up as well.
Yeah, there is. Speak to Junior Kanye. Maybe he might know the budget. They never told me.
Story like is
I
it
don't
there?
know. People must watch.
Okay, cool. Okay, that would be a shock for me because he tells me everything. So okay, not spoiling anything. We shall find out on the 4th episode what happens. Otherwise, it was we're speaking to Lutando Chaya from Pulse of the Nation. He's a series
Pulse of a Nation. Sorry,
Pulse of a Nation. All right, there you go. They gave me a nice card, Pulse of a Nation. And Pulse of a Nation. Yeah, we hope you enjoyed that story too. If you took your time to watch it, as I was asked to rate it, I would like you in the comment section to rate it as well. What did you make of it? I suppose there's always complaints. Of course, it's too Soweto, but if you think about it, the Gauteng province has won 95% of the titles. There's only been 2 titles since the PSL inception that have gone to my province, my city, Cape Town, and to Chatsworth and Durban. So this city dominates South African football. Fortunately for them, who belong here, and unfortunately for us, who belong outside. There you go then. That's been iDiskiTV, iDiski Times. Thank you very much for watching us.